Saint Clotilde, the queen who baptized a nation. The year is 496. The battlefield of Tolbiac is soaked with blood. The army of the Franks, the most feared military force in Western Europe, is on the brink of total annihilation. Its king, King Clovis, a relentless warrior and devoted pagan, sees his lines of defense crumble before the fury of the Alemanni. Despair takes hold of his heart. His gods of war, Thor, Odin, Tyr, are silent. No magic, no sacrifice seems able to reverse the impending massacre. It is at this moment of absolute darkness, when death seems certain and the end of his reign inevitable, that Clovis remembers a voice. Not the voice of a general or a pagan priest, but the gentle, persistent, and unwavering voice of his wife, a woman who, for years, endured his mockery, his anger, and his stubbornness. A woman who spoke to him of a different God, a God of love, but also a God of infinite power, creator of heaven and earth. With tears in his eyes and his heart overflowing with desperate hope, the pagan king lifts his gaze to the smoke-stained skies and cries out, "Jesus Christ, whom Clotilde declares to be the Son of the living God, if you grant me victory over these enemies, I will believe in you and be baptized in your name." What followed was not just a military victory, it was the birth of a Christian nation. It was the moment when the destiny of all Europe changed forever. And at the center of this monumental revolution was not an army, nor an emperor, but the unshakable faith of a single woman, Saint Clotilde. This is the story of an exiled princess who became queen, of a mother who saw her firstborn die in the waters of baptism and yet did not lose faith, of a widow who exchanged her crown for the veil and devoted her last days to serving the poor and sick. This is the story of Saint Clotilde, the spiritual mother of France, the princess in exile. To understand the magnitude of Clotilde's mission, we need to go back to her birth, around the year 475, in the city of Lyon. She was born into a world on fire. The Western Roman Empire was collapsing, and Europe was a chaotic mosaic of barbarian tribes fighting for supremacy. Clotilde was a princess of Burgundy, daughter of King Chilperic II, but her childhood was no fairy tale. It was marked by a brutal tragedy that would define her character. Her own uncle, Gundobad, consumed by ambition and thirst for power, murdered Clotilde's father with a sword blow. Not satisfied, he ordered Clotilde's mother to be killed as well. Orphaned, exiled, and living under the constant shadow of her parents' murderer, young Clotilde could have surrendered to hatred, bitterness, or despair. But it was in exile, at the court of Geneva, that she found her true refuge, the Catholic faith. While most of the Germanic tribes at the time, including her uncle Gundobad, had embraced the Arian heresy, which denied the full divinity of Christ, Clotilde was raised in the Orthodox Catholic faith. She learned to love Christ not only as a great teacher, but as the true Son of God, equal to the Father in glory and majesty. Gregory of Tours, the great 6th century historian, tells us that Clotilde grew in grace and wisdom. She was not only beautiful in appearance, but possessed a dignity and purity that impressed all who knew her. Her faith was not a mere formality, it was the anchor of her soul, the light that guided her through the darkness of her youth. Clotilde remained under the protection of her uncle Gundobad at the court of Geneva until she reached adulthood, around 16 or 17 years old. It was in this city, on the shores of Lake Leman, that she was formed as a woman of faith, prayer, and charity, far from the Burgundian court where she was born, but close to God. Marriage to the pagan king. The fame of Clotilde's beauty and virtue soon crossed the borders of Burgundy. It reached the ears of King Clovis, the young and ambitious king of the Franks. Clovis was a formidable leader, a brilliant strategist, who was uniting the Frankish tribes under his rule. But he was a committed pagan, worshipper of the old Germanic gods. One of Clovis's envoys, named Aurelian, traveled in disguise to Burgundy and managed to find Clotilde. Upon seeing her, he was amazed by her elegance, wisdom, and virtue. He reported to his king that he had found the perfect bride. Clovis, without hesitation, sent a formal embassy to Gundobad, demanding Clotilde's hand in marriage. The uncle, fearing the military power of the Franks, dared not refuse, and so Clotilde left Geneva to become queen of the Franks. The marriage of Clotilde to Clovis, around the year 492, was not a common political convenience. It was the meeting of two worlds colliding. On one side, the warrior king, immersed in the culture of strength, revenge, and gods of war. On the other, the Catholic queen, armed only with her faith, her patience, and her unconditional love for Christ. Clotilde knew her mission was not just to be a good wife, but to be an instrument of God's grace for the conversion of her husband and, by extension, all his people. She wasted no time. From the early days of their marriage, she began to speak to Clovis about the true God. Gregory of Tours records Clotilde's passionate words. "The gods you honor are nothing. They cannot help themselves nor others, for they are carved in stone or wood or some metal. The God who must be worshipped is the one who by his word created the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them out of nothing." But Clovis's heart was hard as stone. He responded with disdain. "By the will of our gods, all things are created and produced. Obviously, your God can do nothing." The trial of faith. The true trial of Clotilde's faith came with the birth of her first son, Ingomer. As a devoted mother, her greatest desire was to see her son reborn in the waters of baptism. She begged Clovis, and he, perhaps out of love for his wife, finally yielded. Clotilde prepared the church with magnificent tapestries, hoping the beauty of the liturgy would touch the king's heart. Little Ingomer was baptized. But the joy was short-lived. A few days later, still wearing his white baptismal robe, the baby fell ill and died. Clovis's fury was terrible. He blamed Clotilde of God for the death of his heir. "If the boy had been consecrated in the name of my gods," he shouted, "he would still be alive. But now, because he was baptized in the name of your God, he could not live." Any other woman would have crumbled under the weight of pain and accusation. But Clotilde's response, recorded for eternity, is one of the most sublime testimonies of faith in church history. "I give thanks to the Almighty God, Creator of all, who did not judge me wholly unworthy, by deigning to take to his kingdom the one born from my womb. My soul is not wounded with sorrow for him, because I know that, called from this world in his baptismal robes, he will be nourished by the vision of God." Clotilde's faith was unshakable. She did not see her son's death as punishment, but as a passage to eternal glory. When her second son, Clodomer, was born, Clotilde again insisted on baptism, and again the boy fell seriously ill. Clovis was furious, certain the same fate awaited this son. But Clotilde threw herself into fervent prayer. She cried out to heaven with tears and pleas, and by the grace of God, the boy recovered. The Battle of Tolbiac and the Conversion. Despite Clodomer's recovery, Clovis remained stubborn in his paganism. It took a crisis of epic proportions to break the shell of his pride. This crisis came in the form of the Battle of Tolbiac against the fierce Alemanni. As we saw at the beginning of our story, it was in the heat of battle, when all seemed lost, that Clovis finally invoked Clotilde's God, and the miracle happened. As soon as he made his vow, the Alemanni began to retreat. Their king was killed, and the enemy army surrendered, submitting to the Franks' rule. Clovis returned to Clotilde not only as a conqueror, but as a transformed man. He told his wife how he had won the battle, invoking the name of Christ. Clotilde's joy must have been indescribable. Years of silent prayers, tears shed in the dead of night, infinite patience in the face of mockery. All had culminated in that moment. But Clotilde knew the conversion of the heart needed to be sealed by the sacrament. She secretly sent messengers to Saint Remigius, the holy bishop of Reims, asking him to come instruct the king in the mysteries of faith. Clovis's baptism at Christmas of 496, or 498, according to some historians, was one of the most spectacular events of the Middle Ages. The streets of Reims were adorned with tapestries, the baptistry was perfumed with incense and lit by thousands of candles. Gregory of Tours describes the scene with reverence. The Lord granted such grace to those present that they thought themselves amidst the scents of paradise. When Clovis approached the baptismal font, Saint Remigius uttered the immortal words, "Bow your head with meekness, O Sicamber, worship what you have burned, and burn what you have worshipped." That day, not only the king, but more than 3,000 of his soldiers were baptized. The nation of the Franks became the first Germanic tribe to embrace the Orthodox Catholic faith, earning France the title of eldest daughter of the Church. And all this, humanly speaking, was the fruit of the heroic perseverance of Saint Clotilde. The widow and servant of the poor. Clovis reigned for another 15 years after his baptism, consolidating his kingdom and laying the foundations of modern France. During this time, Clotilde stood by his side, not only as queen, but as a wise counselor and generous patron of the church. Together, they built the Church of the Holy Apostles in Paris, later known as the Abbey of Saint Geneviève, where Clovis was buried after his death in 511. With her husband's death, Clotilde's life entered a new and painful phase. The kingdom was divided among her 4 sons, and the peace she so longed for was quickly shattered by ambition and fraternal rivalry. Clotilde withdrew to the city of Tours, seeking refuge near the tomb of Saint Martin of Tours. Gregory of Tours tells us she served there in the Church of Saint Martin, and lived in that place with the greatest chastity and kindness all the days of her life, rarely visiting Paris. But the tragedies of the world continued to pursue her. Her sons became involved in cruel wars, and especially Childebert and Clothar committed acts of great wickedness that caused the deepest sorrows to Clotilde's heart. Among many other terrible sins, they spared not even members of their own family in their thirst for power and land. The legacy of holiness. After so much pain, Clotilde plunged even more deeply into her life of prayer and penance. She realized that earthly power was a passing illusion, stained with blood and betrayal. Her true crown was not made of gold, but of humble service. Gregory of Tours describes her last years with deep reverence. Queen Clotilde showed herself such that she was honored by all. She was always diligent in almsgiving, able to keep vigil all night, immaculate in chastity and righteousness. With a generous and ready goodwill, she granted properties to churches, monasteries, and holy places wherever she saw need, so that it was believed she served God diligently, not as a queen, but as his own servant. She did not allow bitterness to poison her soul. Instead, she transformed her pain into compassion for the poor, the sick, and the marginalized. She founded hospitals, built churches, and washed the feet of lepers. The Queen of the Franks became the mother of the afflicted. Saint Clotilde died in Tours in the year 545, at the age of 70. Her sons Clothar and Childebert, who had caused her so much pain, carried her body in procession to Paris, where she was buried beside her husband Clovis in the Church of the Holy Apostles. From the seed of suffering that Clotilde planted with her tears and prayers, a fruit of holiness also grew in her own family. Her grandson Saint Clotilde, son of Clodomir, voluntarily renounced any claim to the throne and chose the path of religious life. He became a disciple of the hermit Severinus of Paris, lived years in solitude and contemplation in Provence, and finally settled on a hill by the Seine, where he founded a small monastic community and built a church in honor of Saint Martin of Tours. Ordained a priest by Bishop Eusebius of Paris in 551, Clotilde died in the odor of sanctity on September 7, 560, at the age of 38. The village where he lived came to be called Sanctus Clodoaldus, today known as Saint Cloud, France. He is venerated as a saint by both the Catholic and Orthodox churches. Thus, Clotilde's prayers not only converted a king and baptized a nation, they also produced a saint in her own lineage. As for Clothar, the son who had troubled her so much, Gregory of Tours records that, at the end of his life, he was seized by deep remorse for his sins. In 561, shortly before dying, he personally traveled to the tomb of Saint Martin of Tours to beg for forgiveness, the same sanctuary where his mother had lived and prayed for so many years. He died soon after, in November 561. The mercy of God is unfathomable, and the prayers of a Holy Mother have power beyond death. The historical significance of Saint Clotilde. The life of Saint Clotilde is a powerful testimony of how God's grace works through human weakness. In a time when brute force and the sword dictated the fate of nations, it was the silent prayer and heroic patience of one woman that changed the course of European history. Her legacy is not limited to the conversion of Clovis. By bringing the Franks into the Orthodox Catholic faith, Clotilde ensured that the Church had a powerful defender against the Arian heresies that threatened to engulf the continent. The alliance forged between the Frankish monarchy and the papacy, initiated with Clovis's baptism, would shape Western civilization for the next 1,000 years, culminating in the Carolingian Empire and the Christian Middle Ages. Moreover, her life teaches us a profound lesson about suffering. Clotilde was not spared the pains of the world because she was holy. On the contrary, she drank deeply from the cup of bitterness. The murder of her parents, the death of her firstborn, the fratricidal wars of her sons, and the massacre of her grandchildren. Yet, amid all this, she never lost faith. She transformed her pain into love, her mourning into service, and her earthly crown into a crown of heavenly glory. May the example of Saint Clotilde inspire us to persevere in faith, to pray without ceasing for the conversion of those we love, and to trust that, in the end, the love of Christ will always triumph over the darkness of the world. The story you have just heard is not only about the past, it is a seed for the future. Pause. The saints are not on a pedestal just to be admired. They are an invitation, a call for us also to be heroes of faith in our time, in our place. Pause. If this message touched your heart, do not keep it to yourself. The world needs light. The world needs hope. Be the bearer of this light. Share this video, subscribe so you don't miss any story, and above all, pray with us that more hearts may be touched. Together we are the living church. Together we keep the flame of faith burning. # prayer to Saint Clotilde. O glorious Saint Clotilde, Queen and Mother, who with your unwavering patience, fervent prayers, and silent tears obtained the conversion of your husband and the baptism of an entire nation, look upon us with compassion. You who knew the pain of exile, the loss of loved ones, and the bitter disappointments of family betrayal, teach us never to lose hope in the promises of Christ. Help us to be instruments of peace and conversion in our own families and communities. Give us your strength to endure trials with dignity, your charity to serve the most needy with humility, and your unshakable faith to trust that, even in the darkest hours, the light of God will always prevail. Through Christ our Lord.